Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy.
Happy Halloween. Did you just burp into the mic?
No, that was supposed to be a whoa.
Oh.
But if it comes over as a burp, feel free to edit that.
Sounded like some gastric eruptions coming on.
Now that would be...
Oh my gosh.
Just so clear,
Claire's feeling real excited. Sure it was. Wink, wink. Anyway, I'm glad you're feeling excited. Wow. Dave, you got your hands full today.
Ew.
I meant because you're feeling obnoxious. What the heck, Claire? So, we're going to pick up with where we left off on Thursday.
Show pony on the road. What are we talking about today?
Well, if you remember last week's case, we had that piece of shit, William Suff, who had just murdered his... he was convicted. Yeah, he was convicted of shit. Yeah, he assaulted...
Well, whether it was him or his wife, the jury's out.
Right. Well, the jury's not out. They said they did it. It's just another jury.
I thought that, as I said, technically the jury's not out. They both done it.
Right. But she had her conviction overturned. Listen to that case. He was sentenced 70 years, got out after 10. And now today we're going to talk about what he did with that newfound freedom.
His free willy.
Literally. His free willy.
I know.
William worked as a warehouse clerk for Riverside County. William would deliver office furniture, and he also enjoyed competing in chili cook-offs every year. And in 1986, he won the Riverside Chili Cook-Off. Not to be the spoiler of all things, but I'm going to get into my timeline, okay? There is a lot of victims, some of which William ends up being tried for, others they can't connect him to, but there is a pattern of...
Was it the chili?
I will mention that later. So I'm just going to get into it. Michelle Yvette Gutierrez was found October 29th, 1986. She was 26 years old and a former resident of Corpus Christi, Texas. She was found in a riverside drainage ditch. Michelle suffered severe trauma to her anus and vagina. She also had several stab wounds to her face, her chest, and her butt. She had ligature marks on her neck, suggesting that she was strangled. Her mutilation occurred prior to her death. On December 10th, 1986, Charlotte Jean Palmer was a 25-year-old homeless prostitute from Anna, Illinois. She was found murdered. They believe she was smothered to death. Due to her advanced decomposition, they could not confirm how she died. Linda Anna Ortega, she was a part-time fast food worker. She had a long criminal history for prostitution and drugs. Linda was found April 29th, 1988. She was 37 years old when she was found naked, dumped on the side of a dirt road. Her remains had been there for approximately 3 days before she was discovered. Linda had been stabbed to death. She also had high levels of alcohol and cocaine found in her blood. Martha Bess Young was found May 2nd, 1988. Martha was 27 years old when her naked body was found dumped in a ravine just a few miles away from where Linda's body had been found. Her body was, like I said, she was fully naked with her legs spread eagle. Martha also had a criminal history for drugs and prostitution. Just like with Linda and Martha, she also had high levels of drugs in her system. Her cause of death was a combination of an overdose of amphetamines and strangulation. January 10th, 1989, Rhonda Jetmore. She was a 27-year-old prostitute. William had picked her up when she asked him if he was looking for a date. He moved a box off his passenger seat so she could get in. They agreed to do straight sex for $20. He asked Rhonda if she had a motel room or that they could go to, and when she said no, but she did tell him that she had a vacant house that they could go to. William, only known to Rhonda as Bob, because that's how he introduced himself, parked behind the vacant house. She took out a 6-inch flashlight that she carried so that they could head inside. Once they were inside the house, they went to a back bedroom where there was already a bed. Rhonda sat down and asked Bob about the money. He handed her a $1 bill, and then things quickly turned violent. He jumped on Rhonda and immediately began choking her. Just before she lost consciousness, she realized she had that 6-inch flashlight in her hand still, and she clocked him in the side of the head. William lost his grip on her throat, allowing her to escape his grasp. Rhonda ran for her life. She was screaming for help as she made it to the living room. William tackled Rhonda to the ground. He began ripping her clothes off and began to rape Rhonda. He told her he just wanted to fuck her. His words, not mine. She begged for him to stop, and then he stuck his finger in her mouth.
Yep, she bit it off.
She bit the shit out of his finger. She bit his finger so hard that one of her teeth broke.
I didn't know that was possible.
I didn't
Was
either.
it already wiggly?
I'm thinking that since these women that he seems to pick have a drug history, that maybe her teeth weren't super solid.
That seems like a wound he might need an antibiotic for.
William yanked his hand back, allowing Rhonda to run to the door, and as this terrified woman fumbled with the locks, William tackled her to the floor again. As Rhonda pled for her life, William said he would let her go. He said he lost track of his glasses and told Rhonda that if she would help him...
I told you he couldn't see.
He told Rhonda that if she helped him find his glasses, he would...
Fuck that.
He would let her go. So, to me, what I interpreted from this was he was out of shape and that this was a lot more physical activity than he expected, and he was out of breath.
She still has the flashlight.
Yeah, and he needed to catch his breath, so...
Rhonda
used her flashlight.
I would not help him find his glasses. How about the tip of your finger?
Rhonda used her flashlight to shine onto his glasses a few feet away on the floor. When William went to pick them up, she ran out the door and flagged down a car. The passenger of the vehicle happened to know Rhonda and pulled out his gun and fired 2 or 3 shots at William. He must have been a bad shot because he missed all 3.
He didn't like her. I know her.
No. He fired them at William, but missed all. Like, none of the bullets hit William.
He, too, couldn't find his glasses.
But thankfully, Rhonda escaped.
Yeah.
But she didn't go to police. 10 days later, she ended up telling the police because they were talking to her about something completely different. And they asked her, because she's beat up, they asked her, what the hell happened? And she described the ordeal and described her attacker as a white man in his mid-30s, roughly 5'10", and weighing approximately 180 pounds. He was clean in appearance, but wore very thick, round glasses. He also had reddish-brown hair with tiny sideburns and 2 or 3 days' worth of stubble.
I can tell you, I would have stepped on those glasses, found them, and then ran.
And he had him a porn stash. He really liked his 70s mustache and decided to keep that.
So we can't even say anything about that because that seemed to be the trend. All them perverts liked that 70s stash.
Yeah, they sure did. However, we're almost to the 90s now.
I figured it out. Since they didn't have the internet or cell phones or anything to find prostitutes, that was the signal.
The prostitutes didn't have the porn stash.
I know, but the menfolk looking, that was like their outward sign.
I'm a pervert. Come find me.
No, I'm a pervert. I'm right fucking here. How much you charging? Sorry to all the folks out there that have that said stash, but you might want to reconsider a razor.
Perhaps do that. Diane May Talavera. She was found 7 days after Rhonda had been attacked.
Are they in the same area, the same county, city?
Yeah, these are all in the same area. He ends up getting the name of the Riverside Strangler, which I'll connect some of these dots for you here eventually. So, Diane was found strangled on the beach on January 17th, 1989. 10 days later, on January 27th, 1989, another well-known prostitute named Linda Mae Ruiz. She was 37 years old, and she was found murdered on the beach with her head buried in the sand. She had
Hold up.
high levels of alcohol in her system, and sand was found in her throat. Her cause of death was acute asphyxiation.
A well-known prostitute?
So, you know how in one of your cases we talked about the whole red light district thing?
She was a fan favorite?
No, but it sounds like, because later when I tell you about what the police and their investigation and all that, they have a lot of run-ins, and there's women out there that they were fully aware of they were prostitutes. If the police saw that lady walking down the street, they knew she was a prostitute. Like, she was well known, and she was a prostitute.
They didn't believe she just had missed her bus.
Correct. She wasn't just standing in that alley for nothing. She wasn't giving that feller directions.
I don't think they stand in the alleys because they won't be seen.
I said she wasn't just giving that feller directions.
That does remind me and Dave were watching whatever the new Cops show is. It's not Cops. It's not Live PD either. But the police shine a light on a parked car and he goes, "It's my girlfriend!" And they didn't even say anything. And I looked at Dave, I was like, that feller has been down this road before. And if I were the girlfriend, I'd be like,
Was it his girlfriend?
I don't remember. I think I was laughing too much and didn't pay attention, but I feel like it was. I was just counting my change, honest.
On June 28th, 1989, 28-year-old Kimberly Little was found strangled to death on the side of the road in Cottonwood Canyon. She was face down in the shrubbery. She'd been hit in the head, brutally beaten, and had several cigarette burns on her arm and other areas of her body. All of her injuries had occurred before she'd been murdered. She also had benzodiazepine and opiates in her system. Her body was covered with a blue towel, which had red, white, and blue fibers that were later matched to a sleeping bag that was in William's van. They also found, your favorite, Claire, pubic hairs on Kimberly's body that were not hers.
It sounds like it's your favorite. You can't even get it out.
Because they found evidence connecting William to Kimberly, he would later be charged with her murder.
My favorites are the squirrel hairs. Because that one that was found in the blender?
It was found in the vacuum, not the blender.
No. The vampire feller. Because he was blending up all the roadkill.
Yeah, that was pretty gross. On November 11th, 1989, okay, half the articles I read called this lady Julie, the other half called her Judy.
Some of them weren't good at the spelling.
I find it super disrespectful because I feel like a lot of the reporting done on these ladies, because they were prostitutes and or drug addicts.
Yeah, I've done those.
They didn't get the attention they deserved. Because no matter what you're going...
Yeah. Nobody cares that, a prostitute died. And that's why a lot of them don't get solved. Because they live a very dangerous lifestyle.
Yeah. And it was really
nobody's
sad.
Missing them. They generally dabble down a road of drugs and don't have anybody looking for them anymore because they've been missing for a while. Missing doing their dream job.
Well, and the thing that made her in particular really sad to me was there is a crime scene photo of her face, but they can't even get her name.
Just cracked this wide open. I know why he's targeting prostitutes. Because he's trying to find his ex-wife, and he thinks that's her dream job, so if he thinks he goes trolling around, he's going to find her.
Maybe.
Seriously.
It's entirely possible.
He thinks he's going to her place of work.
On November 11th, though, 1989, Julie or Judy Lynn Angel, she was 36 years old at the time that she was found mutilated and bludgeoned to death. She suffered such a severe beating and several blows to her face that were so severe they crushed her skull in. Her face was smashed in.
Thank you. I know where the skull is located.
It's a big round thing-ish, depending on the shape of the skull. I'm telling you, her face was caved in. Instead of leaving you to wonder, was it the back of her head? Was it the side of her head? Her face was smashed in. I have an up-close and personal picture of this poor woman's face, and they can't even get her name right. It's appalling.
Is that what killed her, or is this somebody mutilated a body?
No, that's what killed her.
Ugh.
In December 1989, 23-year-old Christina Leal, her and her young children and her brother Jesse all lived with her parents in Paris, California. On the night of December 12th, after smoking crack with her brother and a friend of theirs at their parents' house, Christina took off and ran up the street.
So they were doing crack and she just takes off for a run? Did she, like, weigh too much and has some energy to burn?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right.
Yep. And then the next day, Christina was found on the road, strangled and stabbed to death in Quail Valley. Unlike the other women who were found, Christina was found fully clothed-ish. And I say ish because her socks were pulled up over the outside of her pants legs. Her arms were inside of her shirt. So, like, her shirt had been put back on, but her arms weren't pulled through the sleeves. And the sleeves were cut off. Her family confirmed she didn't wear her socks over her pant legs, and she also didn't cut the sleeves off of her shirt, and it wasn't her shirt.
Seems like it's a more difficult job to put somebody back dressed, put their socks over their pants.
Right?
Just screw the socks.
She also did not have on her bra or her panties. She had marks and sticky residue around her wrists and ankles, indicating that she'd been tied up with duct tape. She had a few scratches to her face and a black eye. Once she had been taken in for her autopsy, 4 stab wounds were discovered to the center of her chest, one of which went directly into her heart. Meaning that as we already established, her killer had redressed her.
He didn't put back on her bra and underwear because he struggled with the socks.
I feel like he struggled with the bra clasp to get it off in the first place. So he's like, that shit's not going back on.
He was all winded from that one lady. He struggled so hard with those socks. That's why he's like...
Well, the socks were probably the last thing put on.
Like...
Or he got her redressed. And
after he got the socks on...
After he got the socks on over her jeans, he was like, damn it, I forgot her panties.
But, like, these Rubik Cubes underwears, I don't know which way's up.
Christina suffered at least 2 stab wounds to her genitals. One of the stab wounds to her vagina penetrated her pubic bone.
What the
Also,
fuck?
one of her nipples, Also, one of her nipples was partially removed. And all of that happened before she died.
Okay, so just like we've stated before with that lady who stepped on her husband's balls and he died, that's an area you treat nicely.
Yeah. Well,
I can't even imagine, fortunately, being stabbed in the junk.
Well,
the fuck is wrong with people? Not that I want to imagine my skull being smushed either, but...
No, but taking a knife to your vagina before you're dead, that sounds brutal.
To the bone!
To the bone. But, as if this wasn't bad enough, right? Because she was alive for all of that. As if she didn't suffer enough, there was an item that was found inserted into her uterus. Not her vagina, but up into her womb. Now, Claire, would you like to take a guess as to what the item recovered from her uterus was?
The flashlight.
You are so fucking on point when I ask you questions. You're doing real good. You're so close. You were so close. It was a fully intact light bulb.
No, that was that from the flashlight.
No, it was a full-size light bulb. I have the x-ray picture from it.
You know what? You know why the flashlight stuck out in my head? And that's all where it's sticking. Is when you said that lady had a 6-inch flashlight, I was like, where's this going? A prostitute with a giant flashlight. It seems like it could work as a double tool. So, and then when you said he was looking for his glasses, I thought for sure she was going to give it to him. But that's not the way it went.
Well, thankfully, Rhonda survived with the flashlight, thankfully beating him upside the head. However, Christina was found with a fully intact light bulb, a 95-watt GE Miser light bulb to be exact.
You know what? I'm real confused at that. One, I don't know why that was the selection, but he's done everything so aggressive and rough and to the point where he chipped a bone off of her pubic bone. But how the hell did it stay intact?
So that baffled the coroner and the police as well, because that...
He doesn't seem delicate in anything he does.
No, but I think that when he jammed the knife up in her, he was trying to pry open her cervix.
He's not a doctor.
Yeah. He sure isn't. And if you want to see up there, you can't stick a light bulb.
He just didn't realize it wasn't connected to anything and wouldn't shed light on anything.
But seriously, it baffled the coroner. How the hell... Like, the glass was not shattered. So I don't understand. The only thing I can figure is hopefully she was dead and all her muscles had relaxed. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know what a cervix is like after someone has died.
You tried to shove a light bulb in a live one?
And I hope he went, like, he was trying to screw it inside first, and then the rest of it just kind of... I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's disturbing. It's absolutely disturbing. And like I said, I do have the x-ray of the fully intact light bulb from her
autopsy. Have you ever seen those ER things where people do that and it does crush and then it's like a serious emergency because they got shards of glass in their asshole?
We watch different shows.
I'm going to blame Dave. Just kidding.
Dave, put the batteries in the remote so you can change the damn channel. You ever
watched any of those weird ER things where like people are eating baby doll heads and they a shampoo
they
bottle.
Slipped on the shower and they slipped in the shower. Yeah,
it's weird how those shampoo bottles just managed to aim directly for center and get real lodged up there. But yeah, so I don't know how that light bulb didn't break.
I really hope that she was already deceased when he...
I feel like she would have had to been, because if she was struggling at all... Dude, I've broken some of those putting them in the light bulb holders. The light, whatever.
Perhaps you should be less aggressive.
Oh, you know what? Maybe it was one of those pointy light bulbs, because those things are really thick glass rather than a bulb.
You're going to make me send you the picture now.
I hope when it was cleaned and not while in place.
So it's an x-ray.
Yeah. Well, they did make light bulbs different then. Maybe with thicker glass. Everything breaks easier now.
Oh, yeah.
Theory of obsolescence. Watch it.
I sent it to you.
Where?
On your phone.
Just want to make sure you didn't put a postage stamp on it. How old was she?
She looks young, right?
She looks 12. And her socks. I had those as a teenager. There's no way she's an adult. They're striped, colorful socks.
She was 23.
Well, they shouldn't have used an elementary school picture then.
I figure she just looked young.
I'd say he was the pedophile, not his brother.
But do you see the light bulb? That's a full-size light bulb. And she's not a big girl.
Bulb. No.
But she's not a big girl.
Did you just make like a crack at the larger girls? That doesn't mean they can take a light bulb without smashing it, Andrea.
No, I meant fuck you.
There's no way you can come out of this. Put the shovel down.
No, I'm not shoveling. What I'm saying is that
you said because she's not a big girl, as in like everybody else stores light bulbs in their uterus.
What I'm saying, asshole, is that because you can see she's a tiny girl, and the comparison of the size of the light bulb, you can see it's a full-size light bulb.
I'm going with my previous statement.
I'm not our husbands, okay? I don't compare the women's vaginas based off their size. Thank you. Anyway, back to my case. So, for those that haven't seen the picture, for those that haven't seen the picture, we will post it to our Facebook page. But it is a picture of It does look like a school photo. There's also the crime
A
scene
light
photo of her
bulb.
laying on the ground with her socks pulled up over over her pants. And then there is the x-ray beneath it of the light bulb. So.
And she's not a big girl.
She's not. I'm saying in comparison, because you were saying that maybe it was a flashlight light bulb.
Next.
Anyway, on January 18th, 1990, the remains of another young prostitute named Darla Jane Ferguson was found dumped about 20 feet off the side of the road. She was 24 years old when she was murdered.
Are they at least figuring out these are connected and they're trying to figure out who their little mini Jack the Ripper is?
So they suspect it, but they're not 100% yet.
Yeah, there's not a public cry for stopping all these prostitutes from being murdered because they're seen as scum.
Unfortunately, like I said, most of them are drug users, so they're not really reported missing or missed fast enough to have been able to connect some of the dots. But eventually they do figure it out. And like I said, it's so sad. I feel for these women. I really do. But Darla, she suffered blunt force trauma and died due to strangulation. Her attacker was so aggressive while strangling her that she nearly bit her tongue off.
Ew.
Like when they found her teeth were stuck in her tongue.
Maybe he was trying to pull it out.
Maybe.
I mean, he's shoving light bulbs places. I would say he's getting into a weird... doing all the things while they're conscious and alive.
So I know this is where you're going to struggle with my timeline, okay? And I'm going to let you know that some of these names are the same or similar. So I'm going to try to make sure that it's as clarified as possible for you, okay? So Darla died or was found murdered January 18th, 1990.
Who's Darla?
In February 1990, William was about to be 40 years old when he began dating a high schooler named Cheryl Lewis.
Dude, he's the pedophile, not his brother.
She was 18 years old and working at a Circle K. They began dating, and even though now he's got a girlfriend, it didn't slow down his murdering.
He still has free time.
Well, she's still in high school, so while she's at school.
And at work.
And while she's going night early.
Because she's got a bedtime.
Yep, because most children do.
Turns out her parents paid attention to those commercials that said, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are at? Because apparently, in the 80s and the 90s, there needed to be reminders.
They needed a reminder again, but because she turned 18, I can tell you later on, she does whatever the hell she wants.
As most 18-year-olds do.
On February 8th, 1990, Carol Lynn Miller, she was 35 years old when her body was found naked except for a black shirt that was up over her head. The frenulum to her lip, the flap of skin.
What's with you in these?
The frenulum to her upper lip connecting her lip to her gums was ripped, suggesting she struggled while being smothered. She had no marks on her neck, but she had several ligature marks to her wrist. She had been stabbed 5 times in her chest before she died. She also had a wound to her right nipple. Her body was found in High Grove, Texas, in a grapefruit orchard. Her killer was hungry after murdering her, and I feel confident in saying that because next to her body was a peeled and eaten grapefruit.
Well, we've already established he's not in very good shape, so he needed a moment to sit.
Have him a snack. His blood sugar was low. By early March, just a few weeks after dating William, Cheryl moved into William's apartment. They started dating in February. By March 17th, 1990, Cheryl Lewis was now Cheryl Suff. The 18-year-old child married her 40-year-old boyfriend in Las Vegas.
It's so disgusting.
Right? And
how old is his kid now? They probably went to school together.
So they're now married, right? He's 40. She's 18. Cheryl's parents, they're so lucky they got them a new son-in-law that can't support their daughter. So he and Cheryl move out of his apartment and move into her parents' house. By October 1990, Cheryl Lewis Suff was pregnant.
What is he doing as
What?
work during all of this?
So he was delivering furniture.
Oh, okay.
On November 6th, 1990, the police are called to the scene of what the police describe as the most brutal murder yet. And it was that of 33-year-old Cheryl Coker. Now, I realize his wife's name is Cheryl, but this is not his wife.
I wasn't thinking so, because I thought he just likes killing prostitutes.
Yeah. She was, and children. Because let's not forget, this is the same asshole that murdered his 2-month-old daughter.
Did he? I feel like that's why he's taking it out on prostitutes, because he feels like his wife did it and set him up, and then she got out, so that's why he's all ragey, and since her dream job was a prostitute, he's hoping each one of them is her.
Maybe. I don't think so, but we'll see what you think at the end. I suspect, and we'll see what you think at the end. But anyway, back to Cheryl. She was found in a riverside trash area, partially covered with tree branches. She suffered severe mutilations before she had been strangled to death. It's suspected that a cord or a wire was used to strangle her. It was tightened with such force that the skin around her neck was ripped. Cheryl's hands were partially mummified because it was estimated that she had been dead for a little over a week before her remains were discovered. She had maggots crawling out of her nose and mouth, and her right breast had been cut off after she was dead, and it was found nearby in the dirt.
Like somebody cut it off, or like animals started picking?
No, it had been cut off. A used yellow condom was found at Cheryl's feet.
Yellow?
That's important. Yeah. The last feller that I did the case on, he, the Albright guy, he had red condoms, remember? Probably not, because I know you got a leaky colander for a brain.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't cling to what color condom whatever murderer used. Maybe that's how they do the sizes.
That's what you said in the last case, too.
That sounded familiar, but it's my own brain hole to keep track of my thoughts. So
at least
some of my thoughts sound familiar.
You're consistent.
I done thought this before.
Now back to
ones? Maybe they're banana flavored.
I'm just going to leave that alone. We're going to flip back over to William's home life. In December 1990, William and his young pregnant wife move into a 2-bedroom apartment together, and another couple later would eventually move into the apartment with William and Cheryl, but they don't move in until July 3rd, 1991. But
he's going to kill her?
No. Susan Melissa Sternfield was found December 21st, 1990. She was 27 years old. She was also naked and posed near a dumpster. She too had been strangled in Riverside.
How do his wives, when he's like visiting all these prostitutes, like his wife is pregnant now, what does he need to be buying condoms for? Is that not a question? I'd be like, so what are you using those for? Oh, I got a cut on my finger and I'm using it for protection.
Those aren't mine. I'm holding them for a friend.
All these cardboard cuts.
On January 19th, 1991, Kathleen Leslie Milne was 42 years old. She was also known as Kathy Puckett. She was found naked, and she was on top of a red robe near a pile of garbage about 30 feet off the side of a dirt road. The coroner said that she was rendered unconscious due to several blows to her head and then strangled. The coroner also revealed that he found a white sock with a blue stripe that was jammed into Kathleen's airway.
Wasn't the other girl had sand shoved in her mouth?
Her head was buried in the sand, so I think he
shoved it in and she
smushed her face. Yeah, when she was trying to survive.
But we don't know.
That's true.
Sock in an airway, maybe there wasn't any sand at the ready.
Perhaps. Our next victim is Sherry Michelle Pacer. She was born deaf. She could read lips. If she wore her hearing aids, she could hear some sounds. She lived with her grandmother in Riverside. Sherry was found completely naked in a flower bed behind a bowling alley in Riverside on April 27th, 1991. She was found naked by a pedestrian, but that person took their jean jacket off and covered her while they were waiting for police to arrive.
Shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. I get that they're trying to respect her whatever because she is naked, but she's dead and now you're contaminating the crime scene. So Sherry had been violated and beaten in the face. There's no official cause of death that could be determined. It's thought that she'd been suffocated. There was also a partial shoe print on the small of Sherry's back. The shoe prints would later be confirmed that it was the same shoe prints that they also found Cheryl Coker's murder. I mentioned that she had been violated. When I tell you she was propped up in a flower bed, there was something left protruding from her vagina. Would you like to take a wild guess, since you seem to do so good with our guessing, as to what was protruding from Sherry's vagina?
Tire iron.
No. It was a toilet plunger.
Oh, which end?
The pointy end.
You don't know. There was a light bulb and another lady. Do I have to explain this to you?
No, I don't need it explained. There was also semen collected from Sherry, but from two different people. And it was suspected that since she was a prostitute, the results could not be used, even though the strongest DNA evidence that they found was a match to William. But all he had to do was say that she was a prostitute that he had sex with, and that explains his DNA. Spoiler, he's later charged with her murder, but the jury was deadlocked as to whether or not he murdered her because it was his DNA. And like I said, all he's got to do is say, yeah, he paid to have sex with her. That doesn't mean he killed her. So the jury was deadlocked, and therefore he was not convicted of her murder. Moving on. So like I said, another couple moved in with Cheryl and William on July 3rd, 1991. Sherry Ann Latham was found near Railroad Canyon Road on July 4th, 1991. She was 37 years old, and she was found face down naked with her hands around a nearby branch, suggesting that the killer had not successfully strangled her to death before he let her go, leaving her to try to crawl away before she was suffocated to death. Basically, like he was toying with her. So I'm guessing that the move with this other couple into their apartment did not go so well, because he definitely took his frustrations out on this poor woman, Sherry. Now, July 26th, his wife, Cheryl Lewis Suff, gave birth to their daughter, Bridget Ann.
It makes me curious if she knew about his first daughter.
The police finally caught a break on August 15th, 1991, when a call came in from a young heroin and cocaine addict who was also a prostitute named Kelly Whitecloud. Again, you're going to have to stay focused on the names because both of the ladies I'm about to tell you about are named Kelly. So we've got two different Kellys, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But this young lady, Kelly Whitecloud, said she hopped in a gray van with a John. He offered her McDonald's because she was pregnant, and he also offered her $20 for a straight lay. At McDonald's, she threw a temper tantrum and made a huge scene, enough to where the employees at the restaurant remembered her, because her sundae was not made to her liking. She wanted the nuts on the bottom of her sundae, not on the top.
She's already going to have a mouthful of nuts here later. She don't need any
So,
more.
She insisted on them remaking it. The manager told the employee, just remake it, put the nuts on the bottom. It is what it is.
Get her out of here. It's a family joint.
Now, Kelly said everything was fine at first after her temper tantrum, but out of nowhere, the John began assaulting her because she was mad that her food, the cost of her food that she got at McDonald's, came out of the $20, and the John notified her that she would only be making $10 off of their straight lay.
I need to agree with her, or agree with him rather, that it should come out of what she's making, because I feel like her cravings should not come out of a business expense. It seems like a personal issue. However, it's fucking disgusting. It was probably his baby anyway.
I don't know, but it's disgusting. And yeah, it's disgusting. But after their food situation, they get in his van. He's beating the crap out of her. She managed to jump out of his moving van. She belly flopped onto the asphalt and ruptured the placenta and went into early labor.
How far along was she?
I think she was like 6
somebody
months.
waddling.
Yeah, I think she was definitely on the
You could tell she was
further end of
pregnant. And it
things.
doesn't look like she just had a large meal.
No, yeah, correct. You could tell she was pregnant. I want to say that I think she was a little over 6 months, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember. But the man in the gray van sped off up the street, and he stopped at the corner and picked up the lucky girl, Kelly. He picked up her unlucky friend, Kelly Hammond. So Kelly White Cloud
is laying in the road.
Mm-hmm. And he drove up there, grabbed the other Kelly.
They didn't finish, right? Because they squabbled over, I bought you lunch, and that shouldn't come out of my like.
Yeah.
I don't even understand you want lunch first? This might be a minute. Although I don't have terribly high endurance, so it shouldn't be more than a minute. But you look hungry, and I don't want you to bite down on my willy.
Or he realized after he picked her up that he was hungry too. He's going to need some energy for what he had planned.
You smell like stale French fries. Want to go buy some fresh ones? Lunch is on you, right?
He goes up. He picks up her unlucky friend, Kelly Hammond.
Does she see
the prostitute? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like she belly flops and he just drives right up the street or like right up that same road. And the prostitute, Kelly, that escaped, she said she also yelled up the street to her friend, Kelly, and said, "Don't go with him. It's not worth it." And she winked at her or whatever and said, "I'll be back."
She likes a challenge.
But prostitute Kelly that escaped gave the investigators a sketch of the van and of her attacker. And within a few hours, it was all over the news.
His wife, I hope, turns him in.
She does not. On August 16th, 1991, so the next day, Kelly Marie Hammond, the unlucky friend, she was 23 years old when she was found strangled in an alley. Her naked body had been propped up with her face against a cinder block wall, with her right arm bent and tucked under her abdomen. Her left arm was bent with her hand on the ground, palm facing upward. Her left leg was drawn up to her chest, and her right leg was extended outward. She had 2 large cuts across her forehead, which occurred before her death. Her cause of death was strangulation, and she was also intoxicated from an opiate, which they did say could have contributed to her death. Her body was still warm to the touch when the police found her.
What time of year was it, though?
August.
Well, it's Texas. She's not going to cool off very fast.
Yeah. Now, back to his home life. His wife, Cheryl, started classes with her friend/roommate in September 1991. The girls wanted to become airline ticketing agents. Back to his non-home life. Catherine McDonald was found on September 13th, 1991. Catherine was 31 years old and a mother of 2. She was the only Black victim of William. Police believe that he changed up his victims due to the fact that he started getting a lot of press, and they said that he seemed to only prey on vulnerable white women, particularly prostitutes. So he decided to throw the police off, and he attacked Catherine. Catherine's legs were spread apart, but her feet were together. Her arms were stretched out to her sides. Before she died, she was stabbed 3 times in the chest. She also had a huge gaping cut on the left side of her neck. The cut in her neck sliced through her left jugular vein, and it also cut through her trachea and also her carotid artery and her thyroid gland. So it was a huge cut to her neck. She also suffered from a stab wound as well as other cuts to her genitals before she was killed. Some of the cuts and stab wounds to her genitals were before her death and some were after her death. Her right breast was cut off after she died. Her right breast, unlike the other victims whose breasts were removed, and they were left behind, Catherine's breast was missing. So the killer took it with him.
Ew. He put that into his pocket.
Her cause of death was multiple stab wounds to the neck. And disgustingly, she was also 4 months pregnant at the time of her murder.
Telling you, these are all his kids.
Back to his home life, William was watching his daughter, who at this point is 3 months old, while Cheryl and their roommate were at their evening classes. And on Thursday, October 25th, 1991, by the time Cheryl had returned home with their roommate in tow, baby Bridget was unusually fussy.
Because she's got broke ribs and a cigarette burn to her toes.
Cheryl tried to lift up her baby to soothe her, only her baby could no longer open her eyes. Cheryl rightfully began to panic and wanted to take the baby to the emergency room. William
He's practically a doctor. She's fine. She's fine. He's trained in this. He knows how to handle them.
You know what? That's not even his excuse. He said, no, Bridget doesn't need to go to the hospital. He said, I got to work at 5:30 in the morning and it's already 10:30 at night. I need to go to bed.
Right. Tell me her and the roommate go because they drove together to do their traveling thing for their training.
Cheryl did what she felt was the next best thing for her ailing infant and called Riverside Hospital and spoke with a nurse. The nurse advised Cheryl to immediately take the baby to the hospital.
Right.
And again, she went to William and said, the nurse at the hospital said that Bridget needs to go to the hospital. And again, William refused. Cheryl said, I can take baby Bridget to the hospital by myself. You can go to bed. And William said if she drove his van, he would call the police because she didn't have a license. And if their baby was going to go to the hospital, then they would both take her.
I would say go ahead and call the police then, jackass, because I feel like if she drove her baby to the hospital, the police would be like, got it, you got an asshole at home, but why didn't you call 911?
Right?
That's what my option would be. Either you call or they're coming here. And actually, yeah. I don't know why the roommate thing.
I don't know. It was a good point. Unless the roommate drove William's van.
Yeah, but the roommate still, like, I'd hate to point out all these friends, but if that's a roommate and the roommate drove anything, whether it's the van or not, that's a licensed driver. I'd knock, I am so sorry to bother you. I know he just got back, but my baby's eyeballs are sealed shut and my husband's an asshole.
Right?
A friend and roommate would be like, yeah, no problem. Where are the keys?
We'll get back to that friend. By 10:30 in the morning, William finally brought Cheryl and Bridget to the hospital.
Because he couldn't get any shut-eye.
And he went to work. With no visible signs of injury, the doctor did blood work to rule out an infection and said he would call them with the results. By 1:30 in the afternoon, Bridget's blood work showed elevated white blood cells, suggesting an infection. William and Cheryl brought baby Bridget back to the hospital for a second visit that same afternoon. By that point, the baby was seizing on one side of her body. The doctor admitted Bridget to the hospital and ordered more blood tests, a spinal tap, and a CT scan. Shortly after Bridget's seizures started, it led to respiratory depression, which required intubation. If she had not been at the hospital when she stopped breathing, she would have died. Yep. A pediatric neurologist examined the baby and saw retinal hemorrhages in baby Bridget's eyes, leading the doctors to believe that she had suffered from shaken baby syndrome. Dr. Robert Stevenson, a radiologist and a member of the Suspected Child Abuse Neglect, also known as SCAN, team at Kaiser Hospital, reviewed the x-rays of Bridget's wrists and ankles, as well as other x-rays and bone scans and CT scans of Bridget's head. One of Bridget's ankles had a corner-type fracture at the lower end of the bone, just above the ankle joint. Bone scans alerted the doctors to areas of possible fractures, which they would then x-ray. Chest x-rays showed that 4 of Bridget's ribs on her left side were broken, and the ribs were broken towards the back by her spine. And based on the evidence of new bone forming around them, the fractures likely occurred probably 2 to 3 weeks prior. So we're seeing another... That's why I say I don't know if his first wife, Terrell, was doing the abusing, because now he's on to a second child, and that's if you're not counting whatever happened to their son that landed him in the ICU.
Or he just got the idea, or he just got the idea and the technique from her.
Yeah, maybe. Bridget's rib injuries were consistent with her being grabbed or squeezed. Bridget had widespread swelling of her brain, which occurs after things like whiplash from a car accident or a baby being violently shaken. Had Bridget not been under the controlled environment of a hospital, her brain would have continued to swell, eventually cutting off blood flow to her brain and causing her death. From the time of the CT scan at Kaiser Hospital in Fontana, Dr. Stevenson estimated that the brain injury occurred 8 to 10 days prior to being brought to the hospital.
How long was her training? Was she gone during that? Or it was like a day thing?
It was a nightly, Monday through Thursday, I think. Another scan team member and forensic pediatrician, Dr. Rubio, estimated the initial injury to Bridget's brain occurred 12 to 24 hours before she showed symptoms. So you've got 2 different doctors claiming 2 different things.
Yeah,
but
they got different opinions.
Right. But the trauma to Bridget's brain, they agreed, nearly caused her death. Because she's stop breathing also. No, she's not dead. Generally, a baby shaken hard enough to cause retinal hemorrhaging, but not instant death, could probably do okay after being shaken before showing symptoms. Does that make sense? So it can cause the bruising in the eyeballs and brain swelling, but not show symptoms right away. Basically like a slow bleed.
Mm-hmm.
Bridget ended up suffering severe brain damage due to the violent beating she endured. But at the hands of who? Who did it? Because the roommate that you're pointing out should have taken Cheryl to the hospital with the baby. William and the roommate at different points in time would watch the baby. So during that period of time of this baby could have suffered these injuries, the roommate also babysat. And at one point, Cheryl said that while the roommate was watching the baby, keep in mind, this child is 3 months old, the roommate claimed the baby crawled and hit its head on the bed, like on the bedpost, and the baby had a lump on the top of her head. But because the roommate told Cheryl about it, Cheryl didn't think anything of it. So it's entirely possible that this poor child's being abused by more than one person. But because everybody was pointing their finger at other people in the household, Bridget was taken away and no one was charged with her assault. They just took the baby out of the house. So whoever did it got away with it.
It sounds like there was no way they can't take them all to jail. But they can make sure it don't happen again.
Unless she births another child. Which she doesn't. But I couldn't find if Cheryl ever regains custody of her child, but I do know that they took Bridget away. Now back to his out-of-the-home shenanigans. Delilah Zamora Wallace was found October 30th, 1991. She was 35 years old and she was strangled to death. She had fingernail injuries consistent with clawing at a rope. Her larynx was crushed and split down the middle, which would have taken an extreme amount of pressure to cause that injury. Which, in the beginning, I told you was interesting because I did do some Googling. So how much pressure does it take to crush a larynx? Any guess?
Larynx.
Whatever. Any guesses?
15 pounds.
You're halfway there. It would apparently take 33 pounds of pressure to close it and 35 pounds of pressure to break it.
For an adult or a child?
For an adult.
You didn't
I
specify.
would assume that her killer stomped on her throat. Like, did a quick boom. She also had drainage leaking from her mouth, injuries to her upper lip, and some sort of indentation to the left side of her vaginal area, which led to bleeding. Now back to home life. The weekend before Thanksgiving, 1991, his wife Cheryl briefly separated from her abusive hubby, which made me think that she definitely did not abuse the baby because she was pissed. Her baby's been taken. It suffered abuse. She moved out.
I don't know, because it could still have been the roommate. I could say that would be an argument of it shouldn't be a battle to go to the emergency room when there's an issue for your child. Regardless of why the kid needs to go, the whole, I've got to work in the morning. Okay, how about fuck you? How about that?
Right? But no matter how you slice it, Cheryl was fed up with William and she moved back in with her parents right before Thanksgiving.
Why didn't they take the baby?
So I don't know who took the baby. But I would assume that because the baby nearly died, that if her parents took the child, she probably wouldn't be allowed near it.
Well, that would be... We've also done or heard at least the ones where they're not supposed to, but they're allowed back into the home. Or they come back into the home, and that could be her motivation to move in, and maybe they don't trust him. And I don't see how him being charged previously and done time for a baby's death didn't come up.
So it did, but they couldn't prove that it was him. So they knew that the case wasn't going to stick, and they just didn't try him. They suspected him of it, but they didn't charge him. William ends up getting into a pretty bad car accident, and he's in constant pain now. Cheryl felt bad for this piece of shit and moves back into their apartment with him on December 4th, 1991.
I was going to say, couldn't have happened to a nicer fella.
On December 23rd, 1991, Eleanor Caceres was 39 years old, and she lived with one of her brothers at their parents' home. So from what I read, Eleanor had a sister, a brother named Philip. He's the one that lives at the parents' house with Eleanor. And then there was another brother named Joe. Joe was a dope fiend and took it upon himself to try to keep an eye out for them local prostitutes since they keep getting picked off. Which, realistically, we both know that means he's just frequenting the prostitutes. Mm-hmm. And when asked, what are you doing over here? He said, I'm just trying to keep the prostitutes safe. But on December 23rd, Eleanor was found naked in an orange grove in Riverside. She, like the other ladies...
His sister?
Yeah, his sister. Not William's sister, but just... I was just telling you a little bit about...
The feller who's protecting the prostitute's sister...
is found dead, yes.
Maybe he didn't know she was prostituting, and then he was just, like, out there protecting the prostitutes, and then was like, whoa!
Or he knew she was a prostitute and was like, hey, get me a discount with one of your friends.
Ew. And she said no, and he snapped.
No. I think he was busy with another prostitute, protecting her with his penis, and that's when his sister was attacked.
He was giving her his life force.
He also was on drugs, so it's possible he was just taking him a nap.
Mm-hmm.
But Eleanor was found murdered, and like the other ladies that we've already discussed, she was found stabbed and strangled. Her right breast was also cut off, but her breast was found 40 feet away from her body.
When did the breast cancer awareness thing start using the whole save the tatas? Because maybe he saw that, and he thought that meant to save them as a keepsake.
That's weird and disgusting, but he doesn't save them. He only took the one.
But
he just chops them off and chucks them.
Missing. Oh.
Yeah, he kept that one. But the other ladies, he just leaves them kicked in the dirt.
Well, that's rude.
Mm-hmm. He chops it up. And I want to know, I wish somebody would interview him after he was captured. What did he have against the right breast? Because he mutilates the right nipple, the right breast. Like, what is it about the right?
Or maybe he's left-handed. That's why it's the righty.
I don't know. But he's got something against that rat breast.
He was working on his carving.
Perhaps. Her body was found right down the street from the Riverside police, which they took as a personal jab at their investigation. Like, he was toying with them because he was taunting them.
Well, why are there prostitutes so near the police department? Has anyone looked inward?
She wasn't prostituting near there. She was just dumped
You don't know.
There.
You don't know.
I suppose. On January 9th, 1992, a gray van...
You did say the other lady was well known.
That's true.
By police.
Mm-hmm.
She was supportive of their protection.
They got the police discount. I don't know that. I'm just being obnoxious like Claire.
Turns out you can't get away with it.
On January 9th, 1992, a gray van like the one reported involved with the prostitute who escaped, Kelly, that chick, was seen by a police officer doing an illegal U-turn. The officer quickly followed the van and pulled over the driver. The registration was expired, as well as the driver's license. The driver, William, was arrested at that traffic stop. The police officer found a bloody knife and other murder-related items inside of his vehicle. William was also wearing the same shoes that left prints at several of the different crime scenes. They also noted that William had scratches on his face and chest.
Did he say you got a new cat?
He did not. On March 25th, 1995, his trial would begin for the murders of 13 women and 1 count of attempted murder. But just to run through it, out of respect for his victims, you've got Kimberly Little, June 28th, 1989. Tina Leal, December 13th, 1989. Darla Ferguson, January 18th, 1990. Carol Miller, February 8th, 1990. Cheryl Coker, November 6th, 1990. Susan Sternfield, December 19th, 1990. Kathleen Milne, or Kathleen Puckett, January 19th, 1991. Sherry Pazer, April 26th, 1991. Sherry Latham, July 4th, 1991. Kelly Hammond, August 16th, 1991. Catherine McDonald, September 13th, 1991. Delilah Zamora, or Delilah Wallace, October 30th, 1991. Eleanor Caceres, December 23rd, 1991. And then the attempted murder of Rhonda Jetmore on January 10th, 1989. Those are the victims he was charged with. On July...
Found guilty?
Not of all of them, actually. And he had a total of 22 victims, but they could not charge him with all of them. On July 19th, 1995, after 54 days of evidence such as witnesses, confirmation of DNA, fibers from William's van interior being found on several victims, matching tire tracks to William's vehicle, without getting into the details of the tire tracks, at several of the scenes, there were different tire treads to one vehicle, meaning like a couple of his tires had very distinct markings, but they were different tires. They were able to match those different tire treads to his vehicle.
Turns out he didn't maintain the correct airflow to his tires, and it led to uneven tire wear, which identified his vehicle.
And different makes of the tires, which were different treads in general. So they were able to confirm that their left tire that had this specific tread was also the left tire, because he didn't rotate his tires like he should have.
Not that we're giving advice other than maintaining your vehicle appropriately.
And don't do the murderings.
Yeah, that too.
They also matched shoe prints to different crime scenes, to different shoes that William owned and wore. Police also found a wooden-handled kitchen steak knife in the van that his wife confirmed was one of their kitchen knives.
It's disgusting. She never noticed it was missing?
I guess not.
Might need to do a better housekeeping.
The police even matched cat hairs found on several of the murdered women
Ew, in the hairs.
to cats in William's apartment. And after hearing all that evidence, the jury found William guilty of 12 of the 13 murders and guilty of the attempted murder. Although, like I said, the police believe him of being responsible for as many as 22 murders. And during the sentencing phase of William's trial, the prosecutor presented evidence not only of his prior murder charges for killing his 2-month-old daughter, but also evidence that he abused and violently shook his 3-month-old daughter that he had with his second wife. On August 17th, 1995, after 10 minutes of deliberation, William Suff was given a death sentence. He would spend the rest of his days in San Quentin State Prison.
So he doesn't get killed?
What do you mean, like jailhouse killing?
I thought he was sentenced to death.
He is. He's given the electric chair.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was asking.
He's still alive.
Ew. They don't kill him like they used to. I'm real disappointed in Texas.
Well, it's California, but...
Oh, well, he's definitely not going to die.
In 2014, appealed the death penalty, and it was upheld by the California Supreme Court.
Well, they don't need to change the sentence. He's still not going to get the death penalty. He's going to die at old age.
He's currently 73 years old. Fun fact time. So remember I said he was delivering office furniture?
Mm-hmm. That riveting piece of information.
He delivered office furniture to the investigators at the police department that were on the task force to bring down his killing spree.
He was probably setting it down. He's like, oh, you're looking for that feller. Here he drives a gray van.
And last but not least, my last fun fact on this here wonderful man. I can't say this enough. It cannot be proven. However, the prosecutor on his case, after the case was all said and done, was chit-chatting with 4 of the jurors and told the jurors that William bragged that the secret to his award-winning chili was the ground breast of at least 2 of his victims.
Ew.
Yes.
I don't know that he did that, though.
I don't know that either, and it didn't get brought up in his trial because, kind of like with your Joe guy, it can't be proven. So it could just be him talking out his ass to try to sound like he did.
Attention seeking.
Yeah. But, I don't know. Take that what you will. He was a piece of garbage. I wish that the 70s weren't so lax, because if he spent 70 years in prison, none of these women would have died.
Yeah. Definitely a piece of shit.
He sure would. Well, be safe out there if you guys are going trick-or-treating today.
Don't pick up any prostitutes.
What?
But for the bargain price of $5, you can sponsor one for today.
What is wrong with you? Step away from the Snickers. You had too much sugar. What's wrong with you?
I'm just saying, you don't have to make them work, but you can spot them a 5.
You can't see me blinking, but I'm blinking.
I just had a thought that, you know how people, like, some people take it as an opportunity on Halloween to be the slutty ones? They're just living out their dream of looking like a prostitute. Since that's what your feller, like, said his wife, what her dream job was.
Well, she said it, but yeah.
I don't think, not that I look for prostitutes, but do they dress up? Or dress down? Not dress at all. Anyway, yeah. Happy Halloween!
Wow. All right. Happy Halloween. Have fun. We'll tune in on Thursday.
Stops at the fishnets. Tune in on Thursday. Oh yeah, we got another one on Thursday. It's a double feature kind of week.
Sure is.
Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.